Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with esteemed colleagues, which we're working together in Europe and with business leaders. And I think this will be a very interesting debate, and I wish you good luck with handling it. Yesterday, Mario Draghi congratulated the Greek people for its economic reforms. And I think this is now a well-known fact. Greece in 2024 has a growth rate which is more than double of the EU average of 2.3. Greece in 2024 has the largest debt reduction in the EU. The debt to GDP was 209% in 2020. It is down to 156% in 2024, and it's foreseen to be 120% debt to GDP in 2030. The unemployment since 2019 has dropped to 8.3, and we had 4.8 primary surplus. So this, I think, is well known, and this is due to the hardship of the Greek people, and which is well recognized by Mario Draghi yesterday. What I think is not known is the equal success we have in the energy sector. We have now electricity produced by solar and wind more than 56% in Greece. We have more than doubled the installed capacity in renewables since 2018. And we have cut our use of lignite since 2005 by 91%, and greenhouse gas emissions by 46%. Greece is moving into the clean energy trajectory, and this we're doing, and actually the bill in the parliament, that unfortunately I will have to leave because it's voted, is for the introduction of a framework for the use of biomethane and hydrogen. So Greece is expanding its diversification of energy from all possible sources, and at the same time it reinforces its interconnection within the country with a landmark interconnection which we had with Crete, and we're now moving ahead with the Dodecanese and the North Aegean, and at the same time with the regional cooperation, which I'm sure we're going to speak later. Regional cooperation is key. In the next 4 months, we're going to have two very important meetings, which I think illustrate the importance of regional cooperation. We will have the energy community in the 17th of July in Greece, where we will celebrate 20 years with the Commissioner of Energy, Mr. Jorgensen being here, which we're going to celebrate the 20 years, but which also shows that the importance of the EU and the Southeast countries that do not belong in the EU to cooperate together. And in the first 10 days of November, Secretary of Energy Chris Wright will be here in the frame of the Transatlantic Partnership in Cooperation. Again, another expression of the new reality where energy is playing a broader geopolitical role. So I'm happy that I made it on time, and I already saved you 1 minute.
One and a half minutes. Thank you very much, Minister. That's great. Okay, you set the bar very high. So over to you now, George Papanastasiou.
Yes, thank you very much, and I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me. I cannot promise you that I will save the 1.3 minutes that the minister saved.
We'll take one.
So, and it's the first time that a non-Greek speaker pronounces my surname well. Oh. So thank you for that as well. I will keep it a little bit more regional. I will not focus on Cyprus. The region, and for us the region, is the Mediterranean, and more focusing on the Eastern Mediterranean. We understand that there are quite some challenges. We have a war a little bit north. We had another war, and we don't know if we have a new one a little bit on the east side. And amid of all these changes and these disputes and the turmoils, we have to manage the one single important issue, which is called energy. And the energy links very much with geopolitics. And in the old times, it was water and geopolitics. This time, is energy and geopolitics. And now, in terms of focusing a little bit more on Europe, it's a view that we have seen a Europe pushing hard on the transition, towards the Green Deal. Personal opinion is that the Green Deal, we pushed it too hard and too quickly at the time that the technology could not support the speed we were trying to implement the Green Deal. We need to consider to see Europe now with a new eye, given the challenges that Europe is facing with the non-independency, is still reliant on, dependent on external sources of supply of energy. Possibly it was Russia a few months back, a few years back. Now it's dependencies that they link to the equipment, possibly the technologies that they are supplied in order to support the Green Deal. And of course, it's the LNG that is coming from other sources. And I have in mind the US and the Middle East. In terms of putting Cyprus in perspective, Cyprus is in the mid of the Eastern Mediterranean. It's in the center of the Eastern Mediterranean. It's a very strategic location, simply because its proximity to North Africa, to the Middle East, and to Europe. It's a gateway to Europe simply because it's a member state which, the first member state from the side of energy. I'm talking about the Middle East now. And Cyprus is a place where we see that it can provide solutions to energy, and I have in mind interconnections. And the one interconnection which is being discussed a lot lately is the Great Sea Interconnector, which is managed by IPTO, the Independent Power Transmission Operator of Greece. And I will leave it there, and I will save you the minute again.
1.5 again.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to have further conversations. Just one more point. It's very important to have the private sector here. It's the solutions, they are not in the public sector. The solutions, they cannot be in isolation with the private sector. I see the relationship of the public and the private sector is very important for growth when we speak about energy. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Next, over to Minister Junghietu from Moldova. Great to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Well, it looks like I have my 3 minutes plus with the courtesy another 3 minutes. I'm joking. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and it's a great honor to represent Republic of Moldova's government and the energy sector of Moldova. Well, as Madam Commissioner for Enlargement, Marta Kos, likes to say, Moldova is the best student in her class. The 2025 was a year of bold reforms in energy sector of Republic of the country. And last week, on the 26th of June, our parliament adopted the new electricity law bill in the second lecture, which strengthens the market rules, supports the prosumers, and aligns with the EU acquis. And we have the target to do market coupling with the European Union market by 2027 on electricity. The amendments which were done to the natural gas law as well are introduced to have a better consumer protection and non-discriminatory access to all the market participants. And all these reforms were developed in close coordination with the Energy Community Secretariat, with the support of EU and of the international development partners. At the end, in conclusion, and what is important to mention, that the regulatory certainty and market liberalization remains the central to Moldova's energy transformation for the years to come. Talking about the natural gas sector developments, since 2023, Moldova has started the unbundling process, and the unbundling finalization it's imminent to be finished, and to have separation between the three components of the gas system. Which will ensure that Moldova's legislation and it's aligned with the European third energy package. And of course, it's one important thing to mention that together with all the country partners along the South Gas Corridor, we managed to have since 1 month, a bundled product, a common product, making the vertical corridor feasible and economically feasible for all the countries. Talking about opportunities, we just recently finished the first public auction for renewables, 165 megawatt, which was very successful. We had a big interest from the private sector, and we are announcing that by September we will launch the second public auction of approximately 170 megawatt wind power plants, but this time combined with the battery energy storage system, which is very important for the energy sector of Moldova. As well, in the government, we are working to launch the auction for the balancing and system services market, which is very important. We have a potential of approximately 270 megawatt for balancing, and this auction it's very important, and we intend to launch it by this autumn as well. Talking about the interconnectors, electrical interconnectors, as you know, Moldova it's working now to finalize its major interconnector with Romania, Vulcănești-Chișinău, removing the bottleneck from the left bank, and to enhance, to increase, and to consolidate its level of energy independence and securing the energy supply. Well, the timing is off. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. And another half a minute saved, so thanks for that. Let me turn now to Deputy Minister of Energy of the Government of Azerbaijan, Orkhan Zeynalov.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here and to address this public and private sector leaders. So Azerbaijan remains to be a strategic energy partner for the EU. We are providing the uninterrupted supply of natural gas to the EU for many years. Last year, we produced 50 BCM of gas, and half of that, more than half of that has been exported. Export to EU was around 13 BCM. It was increased to 57% from 2021. We will continue to do so, and in fact, coming to 2030, we were expecting additional 8 BCM from 5 existing and new fields. Apart from that, the new green energy projects will allow us to release 1.5 BCM. So we're talking about 9.5 BCM of gas additionally. But right now, the Southern Gas Corridor picked this limit. It's generally infrastructure limitation is a subject right now. So in order to increase, you need the full-fledged expansion of the corridor. It requires around 8 to 9 billion euro investment. But it also requires 2 prerequisites. First one is, of course, the long-term offtakes, 15-year plus offtakes from the buyers. This is a very important point. No one is going to invest without the long-term commitment from the buyers. The secondly is, of course, the financial and regulatory support from the European Union. So we're continuing with the Commission this dialogue. 2 weeks ago, we were in Brussels. Minister and Commissioner Jorgensen, they are co-chairing the high-level energy dialogue with the European Union, and we've extensively discussed this issue. So we have the huge potential. The potential is still there. Europe is using the gas for the electricity. In average, it's 13–14%, but in some countries, it's 30–35–40% even. So the demand for the natural gas will remain so, and the gas is the very important transitional fuel for that. up to date, we have 14 BCM of additional requirements from 14 countries on paper. So it means the demand is still there. And generally, as of today, we're providing gas to 12 countries, including 10 in Europe. In terms of the green corridor, green energy, we're investing a lot into the energy transition in Azerbaijan. We're planning 6.5 gigawatt within the next 5 years. And the 2 gigawatt by 2027 is already contracted, and we're expecting close to 3 billion foreign direct investment from partner countries, from the Middle East, from China. The Chinese companies are very important and very active with their technologies, with their expertise. We're currently engaging within the 4 regional corridors, which has been enabled by Azerbaijan and our partners. First one is Caspian, Black Sea, Europe Green Energy Corridor, which will connect the Caspian and Black Sea regions into Europe, and Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and Hungary are the participants, and Bulgaria is also joining this project. So we're expecting 3.9 gigawatt of energy within the 3 phases for this corridor. The feasibility is near the end, and we're also expecting the data cable run through the seabed of the Black Sea. Second important corridor is Central Asia-Azerbaijan corridor. We're working with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan with their huge potential in solar in the Central Asia. So potentially this corridor interconnector can be connected to the Caspian Black Sea corridor, and we're talking about connecting the large regions of the Central Asia through Europe, all the way through these 2 seas. Another important corridor, the feasibility has been completed recently, is Azerbaijan-Turkey, so that the capacities could be from 0.5 gigawatt to 3 gigawatt, and this is a very good chance to expand it into the other countries in the region. And last but not least, East-West corridor proposed by the Bulgarian side during the COP29 in Baku last year. The participants are Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, and Bulgaria, so it will run through the land line Azerbaijan to Georgia and connecting Turkey and Bulgaria. And we are also completing the terms of reference for this project and expecting to start the feasibility very soon. So in general, the prospects are very good, that transition goals are common in the region. There is a huge potential in the countries in the region, including in Azerbaijan. All we have to do is to match the technical requirements with the commercial and business models in order to make those projects successful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. Over now to Iva Petrova, Deputy Minister of Energy of the Government of Bulgaria. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It is really a pleasure to be here today and to take part in our exchanges on energy cooperation and the challenges to energy security and transition. I think we gather at the very right point, because it is urgent more than ever to deliver on secure, affordable and sustainable energy supplies for our citizens and businesses. And in order to do so, we need a clear vision. This means a clear strategy in a changing world, and also a strategy that cannot have a success without a strong cooperation among all of us, including the public and private sector, and also a strategy that needs to tailor the regional specifics. I come from Bulgaria, and we have been consistent in our vision to prioritize diversification of energy supplies and roads in terms to provide for secure energy supplies. And what we've learned is actually that security is a collective effort. It needs committed partners, it needs collaboration, and it needs commitment to collective resilience. And in our region, I think we are having a model of strategic foresight and example for a strong regional solidarity, and that's the Southern Gas Corridor. That was expanded in 2022 with the Greece-Bulgaria gas interconnector, and became a model of a cutting-edge regional cooperation that delivered on security and affordability of energy supplies. Building on this, Bulgaria is committed to develop the vertical gas corridors investments, and this is, as my colleague said, another strategic initiative of the region that will avail additional quantities from trusted suppliers to the countries in Central, Eastern, including Moldova and Ukraine, and Southeastern Europe. When it comes to electricity, Bulgaria has one of the best interconnected electricity transmission system in Southeastern Europe, but we all know that in the current challenges, this is simply not enough. We are working bilaterally with all our neighbors to add additional cross-border capacities, but also we are actively engaged in the regional multi-country initiatives, as my colleague mentioned, emerging in the concept of the green energy zones and corridors, availing the green energy from the Caspian Sea to Europe or from the North African belt, which is crucial for all of us. What we see as our role in these regional initiatives, apart from having the well-interconnected transmission electricity grid, is actually that Bulgaria has the ambition to offer to be the balancing backbone of all these flows, because currently we have a portfolio of new and upgrade of existing pump hydropower plants, totaling of 4 gigawatt installed capacity that potentially would avail like more than 70 gigawatt hours of long duration storage to the market. And just another point I would like to make is that actually through this regional cooperation, we don't develop just technical infrastructures. We share experience, we create stable partnerships, we exchange technologies. New models of operation, of ownership of energy infrastructures, of funding the investments are emerging. And basically, from my perspective, these are valuable assets that could be transferred also to other regions. That's why Bulgaria initiated at COP29 in Baku last year a non-paper focusing also the need to interconnect different regional initiatives, different regions in Europe. This idea gathered a huge support. Many of you who are here today supported this non-paper, including countries that are not with us, like Belgium, for example, UK, Czech Republic, and so on. And I really think this is the way forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And saved another minute. Thank you very much indeed. Now to somebody who brings very important transatlantic perspective combined with a very deep local and regional knowledge. Geoffrey Pyatt, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Joan. It's wonderful to be back in Greece, but it's especially a pleasure to be speaking on this panel. And I want to congratulate the organizers on putting together a really stellar group that I think illustrates the truly dramatic transformation of Greece's role in the region and the degree to which Greece has really redrawn the map of energy in this part of the world. I think every one of the ministers used the word interconnection in their presentations, and certainly looking back on my time here as ambassador and then working on these issues in the Biden administration, one of the really strategic developments has been the expansion of infrastructure, especially for gas. So projects like the Southern Gas Corridor, the IGB pipeline, the expansion of the Revathusa terminal, the new terminal at Alexandroupoli, progress that's being made with North Macedonia, the North Macedonia gas interconnector. And I was very glad to hear this morning that, and Andreas will speak of this, I'm sure, that the Vardax pipeline connecting Greece and North Macedonia is also now making progress. This is reflected in the data. In 2020, Greece imported about 7 BCM of gas. Today, that figure is 17 BCM. That additional 11 BCM of capacity, almost all of it has not been consumed in Greece. It's been exported onward to neighbors. It's played a critical role in helping Europe to navigate towards the strong commitment that the Commission and Commissioner Jorgensen has emphasized to phasing out all Russian energy by 2027. That would not have been possible in Southeastern Europe without this new infrastructure. And I think it's a credit to the Greek government and Prime Minister Mitsotakis' team that all of these projects have been able to make the kind of dramatic progress that they've achieved. It's also important, and I'm sure Secretary Wright will talk about this when he comes to Athens, that a lot of that additional 11 BCM of capacity is coming from American LNG producers. And it's worth noting, the United States today is the world's largest LNG producer, but by 2030, we will double the capacity for liquefaction in the United States. So you are looking at a complete remapping of the world's gas supply, a lot of which is driven by the United States, and especially in the transatlantic context, where about 70% of America's LNG production today is going to European consumers. I think the other half of the challenge, and I was really glad that the Cypriot minister emphasized this in his presentation, is building power interconnectors. So projects like the Great Sea Interconnector, the Gregi Interconnector, they leverage two phenomena. One is a significant expansion of very low-cost renewable energy generation, especially in Egypt, in the Middle East, funded by the Saudis, by the UAE, producing power at a much lower price than is achievable in much of Europe. And then the second half of the equation is what the International Energy Agency has called the electrification of everything, expanding demand for power, for data centers, for cooling, for electric transportation, all of which are expanding here in Greece, but are expanding across Europe. So I think the challenge for the next couple of years is both to bring to completion those key Mediterranean power interconnectors, and my friend Osama Mobarez and I have talked a lot about the importance of using the framework that the East Med Gas Forum provides to leverage cooperation also in the power sector, but then also to build that connectivity all the way up to Ukraine and beyond into Central Europe. So and Greece is really right at the center of this agenda. And I think, as several of the panelists have said, the work now falls to the private sector. So it's great to be sort of right here in the middle of the conversation, and I look forward to the rest of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador Pyatt. So over now to somebody whose organization, the East Mediterranean Gas Forum, has been at the center, really, of many of these exciting developments in recent years, but most importantly in driving this all-important interregional energy cooperation. So, Osama.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. It's great to be back here, and it's also a great pleasure for me to be among this distinguished panels. And if we really want to talk about how can we overcome uncertainties and geopolitical disturbances, I think the key word is collaboration. And this is one of the main objectives of the EMGF, is to bring the different stakeholders from the different governments, also industry, where we have a lot of the giant companies that with the EMGF, the governments, the industry, the regulators coming together to have more integrated energy projects which can overstand some of the geopolitical disturbances. And I think what I would like to highlight briefly is the latest successful model in this regard. These are the agreements signed by Cyprus and Egypt earlier this year in February, and these agreements will allow Cyprus to develop some of their major gas discoveries. It will also allow the companies to recover their investments and also have returns of these investments. Some of this gas is going to Egypt for the domestic market, so it will satisfy the domestic market. Some of it will be liquefied in the Egyptian facilities, going mainly to Europe. Most of it is going through Greece infrastructure, reliable infrastructure, the regasification that Jeff was talking about. And also, some of this gas will be going to Southeast Europe through the interconnectors that connecting Greece with the other countries, which making Greece is a very important hub for Southeast Europe. So I think it's win-win. What I believe is that, as I said, this is one of the main objectives of the EMGF. We can replicate this in the other parts of the Eastern Mediterranean, but also this can be replicated in other parts of the region.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
So,
it gets better and better. Thank you very much. More time for discussion. Now, before we move to the private sector and business, because the minister will have to go, I guess it would be good to, ask you a question, and then we can ask the business representatives to respond. So
we're having very good representatives of the business sector here, so I'm sure that they will be able to contribute. Unfortunately, the plenary cannot start without my presence, and I think, and I'm sorry that I cannot participate more in the discussion, but I would be more than happy to answer your question.
Okay, yeah, we've got a few minutes before you have to leave, I think. So, well, a couple of things, just really quick answers, if you can. You spoke in your opening remarks about energy disparities within Europe, energy divide. Where and how do you see this divide, and how can Greece and others in the room here contribute to overcoming that?
This is actually a serious concern, not only for Greece, but for Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Cyprus. Southeast Europe is facing persistent divergence in terms of the pricing. This is happening year after year. And we're very happy that the Southeastern European countries succeeded in incorporating this recognition in the recent EU Energy Ministers' Council. Clearly, it has to do with the infrastructure of the region, yes, but at the same time, I think there's great room of improvement. The Prime Minister Mitsotakis has surfaced this issue last July and this year in January, and fortunately, the Commission has reacted to this concern, which is a concern that I believe has far more reaching consequences in the sense that it challenges the socio-economic legitimation of the EU project, and it allows populistic voices to be heard. So a new task force has been formed in an EU Commission level, which will start operating in the coming days, and we'll try to see, A, how we can improve the efficiencies of the cooperation, and B, how this algorithm that is the basis of the pricing can be potentially improved in terms of efficiency. It's a very important issue. It affects many countries, and it affects the legitimation of Europe. And fortunately, the EU recognized the issue, and as in everything in our personal life, recognizing a problem is the first step for solving it.
Absolutely, yeah, I know that the Prime Minister has made this, consistently raised this in Brussels, so it's good to see that something has actually, that there's been a response. Just another question really on coming back to the issue of regional cooperation, which everybody here has emphasized very much in their opening remarks. And obviously Greece is collaborating very closely with neighboring countries, Bulgaria, Albania, Italy, and so on cross-border energy grid integration. Can you just say a bit more about what role these partnerships play in Greece's broader green transition strategy and its role as a regional hub?
Yeah, I mean, to give you an indication, with our colleagues from Bulgaria, for example, from the energy, either Zecho or the other deputy minister, who have met the last 30 days more than 5 or 6 times. Energy has become a connecting element for the region. And as Ambassador Pyatt said, Greece has become from a net importer a net exporter. And this has happened through investing in its networks and signaling to the region its commitment to support. We, I think, played a crucial role after the 2022 with the Russian gas, the lack of the Russian gas, having our infrastructure with Revithousa, FSRU, IGB, in order to support the region, who have been working hard for the vertical corridor. The vertical corridor is very important. It transforms. Until now, our countries were neighboring, but they were not really interconnected. Now the vertical corridor transforms that. And this is only the beginning. This can happen also with a railway interconnection. It has nothing to do with energy, but it's important for the region, and with the road. This right part of Europe is becoming a new corridor for the region. And because we are discussing about geopolitical developments, there is the Silk Road, where it would transport products from China through the mainland to Europe and the West. There's now a serious discussion about the IMEC, bringing products from India through the Middle East to Europe. European countries are not competing. Greece and the North can be one of the gateways, and the vertical corridor, one of the gateways from India products reaching Europe. So I think Greece is a real energy hub, working very close with its neighbors and transforming the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining us, even though you have to rush back to the Parliament. We do appreciate it very much. So feel free to go when you have to. But please thank the Minister. Okay, well, we do have, thanks to this great discipline, quite a bit of time now to hear from the private sector, the business representatives here, and have a conversation. So let me turn now to Dan Stratan, Chief Executive and Founder of RCI Holding Romania. And feel free to respond to anything you've heard from the ministers and other speakers. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Joan. Good morning, everyone. I will ask technical support to show some slides, if it's possible, because I think, images speak sometimes for themselves.
Yes, we have a PowerPoint, so if we can put that up now, it would be helpful. Thank you.
First of all, who we are. We are a professional services group focusing on critical infrastructure. Few figures about ourselves. We are employing more than 230 people full-time and project-based about 250. We are caring for about 25 billion plus in energy and infrastructure investments. And we have a footprint, regional footprint covering 18 countries. We have dedicated 25 years of our existence to projects which have a regional focus. We have a very unique value proposition, which is bringing together business, regulatory, sustainability, technology, and process. And we are focusing on innovative and integrated solutions. We are dedicated to cross-border projects, many of them and many of you being working with us in the region. We are also a dedicated strategic organizer of ecosystem and partners. And we have continuously invested in talent and in expertise sharing. We are operating through 5 pillars: financial advisory, consulting engineering, energy markets, digital innovation and technology, and management consulting. And we have also been active in defense projects throughout the region for the last 15 years and more. Because I happen to be the only Romanian present at this conference because of the newly appointed Romanian government and president, in fact, few words about the role of Romania in green transition and in regional security, energy security. We are about to reach our targets for renewable as well as storage capacities, both in renewables, both in PV as well as in wind. And we are also starting offshore wind production because of the potential in the Black Sea. We face a lot of challenges for this. One is obviously the decarbonization targets, the ESG integration, and the green taxonomy compliance. But I think the biggest challenge of all is the grid modernization and the storage capacity. What is important is that we are dedicated to support what energy security and progress in Europe is, and the regional collaboration. And we have been, I think, pioneers in this respect. Very short word about Romania as gas supplier and balancing partner in Southeastern Europe. As you know, we are among the very few EU states with gas resources, and the recent addition of Neptune Deep is going to add about 100 billion cubic meters of gas. We are also an important player and integrator in the regional supply routes, and here I think the interconnections play a very significant role. What I want to speak and what next, from my point of view, are three things. One is the lack of human resources, because we all spoke about physical infrastructure, about interconnectors, but we are neglecting somehow the talent availability. In Romania only, because of the very age group in energy, we are facing about 30 to 40,000 experts which are needed in both legacy as well as new technologies. The second issue that we have is access to capital, and access to capital covers both startup, so venture capital, as well as late stage capital. And finally, because we are focusing on cross-border energy zones, hydrogen corridors, grid interconnectors, innovation hubs, and energy system digitalization and cybersecurity resilience, I want to have a very concrete proposal, which is we should move from political statements to reality, to action. And as my dear geopolitical advisor just mentioned this morning to me, I think an initiative in Southeast Europe, including Azerbaijan and Georgia, is something that is badly needed in order to reach not only the talent pool, but also the critical mass for such projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very interesting, enticing proposal. You know, I hope maybe we can discuss that a little bit more. But let's turn now to Andreas Shiamishis, who is the Chief Executive of HELLENiQ ENERGY.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here in this panel. I think the idea of having a mix between politicians and businesses is a very good one because it gives a perspective and it emphasizes the cooperation needed in order to move forward. Let me try and spend the next few minutes talking about energy, let's call it energy transition, and regionality or interdependencies. I'll start by briefly saying who we are for two reasons. First of all, it's always standard policy practice. We need to promote our company in this event. So, HELLENiQ ENERGY is a company which is roughly about a $15 to $20 billion turnover company. So we have the size to be able to have a view of what is happening. It's a company which is engaged in a number of sectors in the energy chain, from hydrocarbons to power and gas, renewables, and what is a fast-growing segment, which is the sustainable fuels, be it biofuels or hydrogen or synthetic fuels. And we also have presence or business deals with pretty much all of the countries that are represented here. We have in-market presence in 7 countries outside of Greece, and we import either crude or gas from some of the countries represented here, or we export into those countries. Now, you may know HELLENiQ ENERGY as Hellenic Petroleum until recently. Today, we're actually less petroleum than we used to be. That's why we changed our name into HELLENiQ ENERGY. Actually, 80% of our capex went behind renewables and power and gas over the last 4 years. And less Hellenic than our name suggests, given that about 60% of our business it's outside of Greece. We're not planning to change the Hellenic part of the name, though. So it does give us the ability to be able to comment on the transition and the regionality of energy. So going on to the energy transition, we've seen over the last 15 years a big focus on energy transition, mainly with the angle of the climate crisis. Yeah? And it was right. Clearly, we had to do things in a different way. And moving from environmentally heavier footprints, emphasis on CO2, plus a couple of other emissions as well, but CO2 was the most common one used, to renewables is something that needs to happen. The problem in Europe is that while we design the end state in an ambitious way, broadly correct to be honest, we failed to design the transition from where each country was to that end state. And each country has a different starting point. So Germany has a different starting point. Greece had a different starting point, moving from lignite to renewables. Cyprus, for example, is, until recently, about 85–90% dependent on liquid hydrocarbons for its energy supplies. And what people fail to understand is that even today, 60% of the energy demand is covered by hydrocarbons. So it's not just electrons, which is the energy market. So that transition was not planned as a multivariate system. It was just a climate angle that sort of took precedent over affordability, over security of supply, over sustainability overall. I mean, there is a competition between, having renewables throughout Europe with PVs and having agricultural land, for example. So all of these things were not planned in a holistic way. That means that interdependencies are much more important, and the regionality aspect of energy has recently been escalated, but we need to do more on that. Regionality has to do with in-market grids, which is a problem because moving from few power generation plants to many PV or wind farms has a totally different setup on the grid. It has to do with cross-border energy flows. We know that because hydrocarbons have been the primary source of energy for a number of years. And Greece, with its shipping and refining capacity, has been sending fuels across the region for a number of years. So what we need to do is to recognize and escalate the level of connectivity of the markets so that we are able to work together and get to the end point on the energy transition.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for that. Let me now turn to Maria Rita Gali, Chief Executive of DESFA.
So, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be back again to this event because year after year it gives us the possibility really to witness the concrete results that this public-private and private-to-private cooperation is delivering in removing physical and commercial bottlenecks to the creation of an integrated natural gas market in Southeast Europe. I was looking at the things which have happened around this event in the last few years, and let me start saying that, of course, focusing on 2022, exactly here, the first memorandum of understanding, the cooperation agreement has been signed between us and Nomagas, the North Macedonian company, for the development of the new interconnection between Greece and North Macedonia. Always in 2022, Greece, so DESFA together with other 9 altogether transmission system operators and system operators joined the vertical corridor. And we are in 2025, and the result of the vertical corridor are available all in front of us. The export capacity of Greece has increased from 2 billion in 2022, excluding TAP, to approximately 8.5 billion by the end of this year, and 5 billion by the end of 2024, with addition, of course, of the ICGP interconnection or of the FSRU of Alexandroupolis. And this capacity is not a project, it's there. And we have also cooperated among countries, among TSOs, to remove commercial barriers. And one of the most significant let me say, even if a small achievement is the launch of this super bundle product, like we called it. That means that as of yesterday, and physically yesterday for the first time, Ukrainian buyers have been able to buy gas at the Greek virtual trading point and receive it in Ukraine with a single contract that has been booked on a digital platform. This is, let's say, commercial innovation that comes through really the cooperation among the private sector, all the transmission system operator, and the public sector, because in a record time, all the regulatory authorities of the countries have approved this product and have approved the fact that, let's say, each company have made a solidarity gesture of reducing, and Moldova even more recently, the transit tariff in order to make this product commercially viable. And as I mentioned before, let's say when it comes to North Macedonia, we signed the cooperation agreement here at the Economist 2022. Last year, we started the construction on the Greek side. Next week, our colleagues in North Macedonia will have a groundbreaking ceremony in which also the construction on the North Macedonia side will start. So let's say we are really moving ahead with the steps that will enable significant flows of gas coming from through Greece to be exported through the southern corridor and to the vertical corridor to Southeast Europe. And at the same time, as the minister left us to go to the parliament to discuss the hydrogen law, also important achievements are being made. Of course, we are at the baby steps vis-à-vis the new future energy corridors, and here I'm talking about the future hydrogen corridors. Greece has obtained by the European Commission the approval of 2 projects of common interest. Last year, the Hydria project, which is the interconnection between Greece and Bulgaria, for which also grant financing have been given by the European Commission for the first studies. And this year, a second project of common interest has been approved. That, again, is an example of cooperation between us, DESFA, IGI Poseidon, and SNAM for a possible second corridor for hydrogen future export through Italy up to Austria and Germany. So step by step, but by continuously working together, I think that we are really proving the case that this collaboration can really deliver significant results.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria. And over now to Fabrizio Mattana, an old friend, a regular on these panels, and always with great insights on the subject, on the topic, interconnectivity.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Delighted to be here in such a distinguished panel. Again, in my 4 minutes, I will try to remark 4 points. And the first one is starting from the context. I think that we are experiencing, and we have experienced, that the geopolitical instability is creating a very huge impact in the energy system, and then in terms of security of supply, and then in terms of competitiveness of energy and competitiveness of our country. And what we see is that when we have this kind of complexity and instability, the system should call for cooperation. We mentioned, everybody mentioned this before, but the reality, and this is what we saw, is that if this cooperation is not prepared, in the emergency situation, every country will look for his own security. And here comes the second point I wanted to mention, that is the role of infrastructures, because the way to prepare this long-term stable cooperation is through infrastructure. Infrastructures take time. We mentioned, of course, I'm in the gas infrastructures, and they are complex, they are very capital intensive, they have geopolitical complexities, but this is something that has to be prepared. I think that it is true, has been said, that public and private sector have to work together. I think European Commission here have an important role in order to de-risk the development phase of the project, but in the end, the market will decide, the private sector will take his own risk, and the market will match demand and supply and feasibility of each project. But the public, and in my case, European Commission has a role in order to de-risk the initial phase. The third point, I will tackle a little bit the point of energy transition from another perspective. I think we have experience. I mean, I'm perceiving that the approach to the energy transition is changing. Is becoming, luckily, less ideological, more pragmatic. And I think this will help in going through a concrete and real transition that is bringing affordability and security in a more concrete way. What we were facing before was an ambitious target. I fully share the previous point. Ambitious target without a real competitive solution. And the risk was very high, and we experienced that. I think the situation is changing, the approach is changing, is becoming more pragmatic, and this means that also natural gas will have a longer time frame and probably an easier acceptability, even in Brussels, but not because of ideology, but because we need it. And when we talk about gas, I come to my last point that is related to the area we are working in, that is the East Med area, the Mediterranean area, and in particular the East Med Basin. I think that when we talk about security of supply and energy, East Med area is a huge opportunity for security and stability for Europe and for the Mediterranean area. It's the biggest area of discovered resources. It's the closest, so also in terms of efficiency of transport and competitiveness of pricing, hopefully, is an important, great important area. But what is missing now, and this is related to the 3 points I mentioned before, is an energy corridor, is an interconnecting infrastructure or system of infrastructure that brings the molecules. Today is gas, in the future could be hydrogen, connecting Europe to the East Med Basin. We have been working a lot as IGI Poseidon in this kind of infrastructure. We mentioned IGB as a first effort of interconnecting the areas, and we have been working a lot on East Med pipeline. We still think, even knowing the complexity around the project, we still think is a huge strategic option for the area, for the energy stability, energy security for Europe and East Med Basin.
Thank you very much, Fabrizio. Thank you. Just let me come now to Notis Sardelis to maybe comment on what you've heard from our collective here and throughout some key points.
I'd like, first of all, to thank you personally, thank the organizers and the economists personally on behalf of Sardelis Petsa for inviting us.
I think the mic needs to be turned up.
Hello?
Okay.
1, 2. Yeah.
Better.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers and the economists personally on behalf of Sardelis Petsa for inviting us to participate in this prestigious conference. I would like to make some very brief remarks, and I won't use the time at all, about certain legal aspects relating to the green transition and the progress made in Greece in the last year. It is true that significant progress has been made since last year. Policies have been formulated and important measures have been taken to confront the oversupply caused by the increased penetration of renewables in Greece. For example, the curtailment compensation mechanism, the recent ministerial decision for GCO for standalone batteries, and the future introduction of negative prices in the balancing market. However, there are still very important challenges that remain, And allow me to say something briefly about three important issues that are still here with us and affect the whole green transition issue. Boosting interconnection has been mentioned before. The second is we need an updated spatial planning. And the third is land security. About boosting interconnections, despite progress on green transition, we still face oversupply, negative prices, and curtailments. Interconnections, both domestic and cross-border, must be prioritized. And this means that there must be fast-tracked licensing and permits, of course, without compromising environmental standards, but these have to be redesigned. We need solid funding and smart financing, and we need incentives not just for large players, but also for other medium enterprises, which can play an equally pivotal role in many aspects. The second is we need spatial planning for infrastructure. We need updated, stable infrastructure for both electricity and gas, but development depends on a realistic and modernized spatial plan. Up to today, storage integration has been mainly achieved through fragmented legislative initiative. We need to complete new and updated frameworks for spatial planning based on past lessons and best practices. And third and last, land security. As a lawyer, I cannot stress enough the importance of securing land for any project, not only energy projects. Major projects need significant space and legal clarity on land. With the land registry, which is now complete and operating, almost within all territory in Greece, it's time to review and modernize the expropriation law. For example, high preparatory costs and procedural delays often defeat the purpose of expropriation. Therefore, some focused legal fixes are urgently needed. And I'm closing by saying that, yes, the wider region sees that the wider area sees instability and challenges and changes, but I think this is not something that would have to make us to change our goals, but to act faster, because time is running out. Thank you
very much. Okay. We've heard from everybody, and I think we've got about 12 minutes left. That gives everybody about 1 minute, which is, so this is very challenging. So I was thinking, first it would be good to talk about, everybody's mentioned geopolitics and the challenges that this has posed for energy security and developing the sort of connectivity that everybody's been talking about. So arising from that, I'm just going to randomly pick out a few people. Nobody's mentioned Ukraine, so maybe, Geoffrey, you would say something about that. Where does Ukraine fit in?
Yeah, thank you, Joan. And Ukraine and Russia's invasion, I think, is central to the way Washington thinks about energy as a geopolitical instrument. Certainly, Russia's use of energy in 2022 to try to break transatlantic unity was a big part of the larger narrative around the war. I was really glad to hear Minister Papanastasiou talking about the importance of the vertical corridor. And I see Alexandra Siroukou has arrived, and as deputy minister, she played a leading role working with the Commission to build out this vision. As Maria Rita pointed out, there is now agreement among Greece, Bulgaria, Romania on a pancaking formula to consolidate pricing there. And I will just note, lastly, that one of my last projects in government was helping the Biden administration to shape its approach to Ukraine's decision in December, at the end of December last year, to end all transit of Russian gas. There were great debates about whether this was going to be destabilizing to our partners in Europe, about how the Ukrainian grid would sustain itself. It happened, and there wasn't a single ripple. And I think that demonstrates both the strategic defeat that Russia has faced with its loss of its European market for its gas, and that's a market that Russia has not been able to redestine, but also, back to my original point, the absolutely critical role that Greece has played as a regional energy hub and as a gateway, facilitating the delivery of American and other molecules, along with the gas that comes through the Southern Gas Corridor, to build energy security and to create an environment that makes Europe both energy secure, but also advancing the region's national security.
Thanks. Wanted to come back to you then, Minister, just, I guess, continuing on this theme of the geopolitics and geopolitical uncertainty and pressures and instability and wars. You know, from your experience, is this something that is actually undermined, or has it actually emphasized or accentuated the push towards greater regional connectivity and cooperation in the region?
Yes. As we said before, geopolitics, they are very much linked to energy. And when there is a turmoil somewhere in the world, you understand that immediately it impacts the cost of energy. And affordability is a matter that the citizens, especially of Europe, they need to consider seriously, and not the citizens, the governments of the European member states, they need to take it very, very seriously, simply because competitiveness of Europe is under question mark. And with Cyprus taking over the EU presidency on the 1st of January 2026, and my ministry being energy, commerce and industry, we will be leading 3 councils. The Council of Energy, Competitiveness and Trade. You understand that if I take the competitiveness and connect it to energy, you understand they are very much linked. And because you spoke about geopolitics and Jeff spoke about the Ukraine impact, I mean the invasion of Russia in Ukraine, you understand you remember what we lived in Europe, the time that the Russian gas was shut off from the system of Europe. Immediately prices went up. Certainly, we found ourselves in Europe in a period trying to move through the transition to implement the Green Deal. Of course, the Green Deal supports the independency. Again, I keep connected to competitiveness. And I heard a few words here like being realistic, being pragmatic. I believe that it's very important for Europe to take competitiveness into consideration. And I will say one more thing. We see Europe trying to implement renewables. We started the Green Deal for the climate change. I believe we need to change it and switch it a little bit differently and explain the Green Deal differently. Instead of saying climate change, we say supporting our economic model and then climate change. So we put competitiveness first, and then we put the climate change. Having said that, energy is not anymore produced where it is consumed. And because this is the case, we need to transport energy from where it is produced to where it is consumed. The Mediterranean is a place of production. Because of the PVs, photovoltaics, because of the wind, we see, the dynamic of wind in the Aegean Sea. We see what is happening in the north of Africa. We see the Middle East developing big PV plants. But also, we need to see the connectivity of the world. Middle East, we spoke about India, Middle East, Europe corridor. This is something very important, and we need to be supportive in order to deliver it. In closing, I would say that competitiveness should be number 1, Green Deal supporting our competitiveness. Climate change, it's coming second. Thank you.
Thanks. Now I realize the challenge of this panel of 12 speakers, because I did want everybody to have a chance to come back and say something. So I'm going to take very quick points from each of you. And in terms of our discussion, feel free to really just emphasize, what is the kind of key issue for you, whether it's a financing question, the problems of accessing finance from the business side, is there enough venture capital going into tech and infrastructure in the energy field? Is it the geopolitical challenge and connections with improving connections with Europe for Moldova, obviously facing big security challenges? Is it pricing, energy divide? Any of these things. So, but please, just 30 seconds maybe from each of you, and I'm just going to go down the panel just to give you all a chance to give a key message. So, Minister.
Works?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Interconnectivity, it's the key for better cooperation, for grid stability around the region. And in Moldova, we know the best this part, as we are working now to complete our major interconnector with Romania, and we have another 2 to come. One is already financed, and we have it already on the pipeline. Very soon we'll launch the auction and the construction process for that. It's the Bălți-Suceava. It's an interconnector, 400 kilovolt interconnector with Romania. And as you mentioned, Madam, the financing is very important, the financing mechanism and the finances availability for the third interconnector, which it's also crucial. We are targeting and we are aiming to do market coupling by 2027, and as well to be able to integrate more renewables into the grid to expand at the full extent the potential of renewables in the region. We need to have better grid stability and better interconnectivity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was just thinking that this word uncertainty, I mean the environment is changing, so maybe priorities are shifting as well, considering the geopolitical changes. As my colleague said, we were in a rush to complete the climate goals, but now we have to look also at security and affordability. We had these events in Spain, recently in North Macedonia, in Serbia, where we felt what it is like to have a blackout. And as the minister said, in our region, we are now having an upward pressure on prices. This is continuing for more than a year and a half. So affordability affecting competitiveness at the end of our region is really a key priority. But what I think is undoubted as a sound foundation to walk steadily in this uncertainty. These are grids. We need future-proof, flexible, scaled-up, interconnected grids that are protected also against cyber, physical, or hybrid threats. And we need cooperation. We cannot deal it without having a strong cooperation, especially in our region. This is the base between Greece, Bulgaria, Romania. Also, we have the trusted partner, Azerbaijan, that is a good example of regional leadership with a global impact.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I have to mention that Greece is an important partner within the SGC, and we will continue to partner with them. And this year we're planning to supply even a bit more gas than in the previous years. Regional interconnectors is the future of the energy, and based on our projects, I would like to mention 2 points. The technical points have been mentioned by my colleagues, the commercial aspect. First aspect, how to raise the IRR of the project, to bring down the capital cost. So 60–70% of some of the projects are the supply chain, and in order to that you need the private sector involvement to raising the ratio of the equity. Not easy, but when the IRR is good in the double-digit area, when there is an incentive for the private sector, including from the public sector actually, the IGAs could be helpful in some cases. We're talking about the multi-billion-dollar projects. Without the public sector stepping in and helping the private sector is not possible. But at the same time, the supply chain is a really delayer in some parts. We're talking about China. Some projects in China, the huge offshore projects, they take less than 2 years. They take 4 or 5 years in other parts of the world. Why? Because the supply chain is very near, the materials are there, technology is there. So we have to think how to align those commercial supply chain and commercial breakout of the projects under the one umbrella. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to jump over you, Geoffrey, and go to Osama. I'm asking for 30 seconds now, sorry, because we do have to finish.
maybe my last remarks are that resources underground does not have value. So, and the word competitiveness and pragmatism has been recurring in this panel. So I think we need to be very pragmatic to bring the different stakeholders together so that we can bring these resources off ground so that we have value, share this value among the stakeholders, and this is going to be very good to energy security and also withstanding uncertainty and geopolitical tensions.
Thank you very much. Dan.
My opinion is that the business of energy is shifting from hardware infrastructures to energy management solutions. What we see now in Romania is negative prices. By the way, we are balancing 80% of all the balancing market of Romania in nominal terms. We are seeing problems of congestion management, flexibility services, energy efficiency, new technologies. We are seeing a lot of value into forecasting of energy, whether it is production or demand or technical losses. So what I believe is that the new era for energy is about technology and especially AI-driven technologies. For this reason, access to capital for startups as seed capital, as follow-on financing, and especially for late-stage financing, which practically is very scarce in our region. And I think the role, and this is an important message, of the big players in energy in our part of the world should replicate what Verbund is doing in Austria, E.ON is doing somewhere else in Germany and all over the place, by investing in startup technologies and by supporting what we have as a talent pool. We ourselves are looking at raising a venture capital fund, but of course the big players should be the ones who drive the effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Andreas?
Yep. Well, let me tackle the finance point in very simple terms. You have generally three pools of finance. You have centrally coordinated, whether it's governments, whether it's European funds, whether it's infrastructure funds. Then you have industrialists, and then you have funds. Each one of these pools responds to different signals. Signals mean constraints, technology risk, regulation, incentives, grants, and all of that. What we need to do is to ensure that Europe and each country will align those signals with the transition path that we need. Today, we have a big issue because we are being called to invest in technologies which are not proven. So everybody thinks that hydrogen is a solution. Well, it might be in 10 years, not now. We need to invest to get there, so somebody has to take the technology risk. Everybody is talking about renewables. Well, guess what? You cannot run a country on PVs. So there has to be the appropriate signaling to make sure that funds are invested in the right technology.
Okay, very clear message there. Fabrizio?
Yeah, maybe on the same path. I think that if we want to really achieve a sustainable energy transition and the decarbonization of the sector, I think we really have to focus on carbon neutrality. Carbon neutrality through technological neutrality. This is also linked to financing. We don't have to set targets on a single technology. There is no one single route. There is technological neutrality. We set the target, the market, the cooperation between private and public sector will bring the most competitive and sustainable solution. So I think that technological neutrality is the key, also to achieve an ambitious target.
Thank you very much. And last word to you, Maria.
Well, I can only agree with what Fabrizio and Andreas said before me, technological neutrality. And let's say it's very important to understand that energy investments are capital intensive, have a long life. And let's say we all have to avoid, for the benefit of the cost of energy for the consumers, any risk of stranded asset. So we need energy policies which are stable, and this is not what we have had in the last few years. We have had energy policies, we have changed a lot, and it's very difficult to take the right investment decisions. So stability of energy policy, realism and pragmatism, and I totally agree, we need to have technology neutral targets.
Thank you. The Minister just wants to make a final point. I think we've set up the discussion for the next panel quite well, which is the focus on the climate change and targets and so on. So, Minister, final word.
Thank you very much for this exceptional treatment. As we heard from all the speakers, we cannot afford to exclude any energy technology. And this is my takeaway from this conversation here. And the reason is because you hear, renewables, technology may not be there to support our competitiveness. We heard the words natural gas, we heard wind, PVs, technology, AIs, so you understand that we cannot afford to exclude any technology. So it has to be in a mix, and gradually and in a realistic way, we move towards the Green Deal to support our economic model, to support the European competitiveness.